to talk about with you today. We are taking a look at the overall picture of the market health. We are seeing basically sideways action. As you can see, Bitcoin 0.63%, XRP up 0.65%, Ethereum 0.44%. A lot of sideways action in the last few days. Pretty much has been stable most of the past work week for a lot of the leading coins. Yeah, up and down a little bit here and there, but nothing very radical. Generally speaking, we're seeing just a lot of sideways going on. If you're looking for the most volatile price action, this is not the time. But it could be soon, right? It could be like mid-year. More likely, we're going to see it somewhere, first quarter. We're going to see the bottom kind of be more obvious. This quarter, next quarter, who knows? Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll be next year. Right? We don't know. I really don't know. I'm not giving advice on any financial stuff. I'm not telling you what to invest in or buy in. This is just for entertainment purposes only. And you should always do your own research and not take the advice of a single YouTuber, even if he's as awesome as I am. You should always have a diverse and well-educated opinion when it comes to your financial investments, and you should know the facts and not invest anything more than you can afford to lose. And the reason for that is very simple. People don't usually mention this, so I'm going to mention it now. Because there's a high likelihood you will lose all your money when you invest. That is why. Okay? The fact is, if you're not good at investing, don't start with big ones. You should invest in small things, practice, watch it grow. Don't mess around with cannons if you don't even know how to use a handgun, right? You're likely to hurt something. Maybe it's harder to shoot yourself with a cannon, but you can do a lot more damage with a cannon than just hurting yourself accidentally. Review just to help you why not, but that is not the interest of our day. I find this story to be massively more interesting. And I don't care if you love Ripple or hate it or whatever. Do you think it's a banking coin? Do you think it's a great crypto? I don't really care. I think it has its merits and its, weaknesses just like anything else. And pro or con, whatever, it is a thing people trade. And they are impacting the economy, whether you like them or not. And I think they are doing a good thing by promoting XRP as a cryptocurrency to help reduce remittance costs. Do I think other cryptocurrencies are better? Yes, there are some I prefer. But does that make XRP the worst thing and evil and all that? I don't think so. Because people who own XRP, they're not all bankers, right? Average people are buying this stuff. Average everyday crypto investors and people are buying this stuff. And think about it from a marketing point of view. If you are Ripple and you have your regular, street investors buying up XRP, is that good or bad for your company marketing? Well, I think it's very good for your company marketing. I think Ripple is doing very well, forming partnerships with banks and institutions around the world, precisely because they understand you can't please everyone all the time, but you can make an awesome product that serves a purpose and benefits all parties interested, right? And again, I don't care if you love Ripple or not, and I have my own feelings about it that I won't necessarily share here. But there is no denying they are playing the game very well. And you may hate that fact, but they are still doing it. And if you want to not take advantage of that, that's entirely up to you. But just know that that is happening, whether you love them or hate them. Like, I get why people hate XRP and Ripple. I genuinely understand that. But I really don't think it's worth putting your eggs in the basket of hate. I think it's worth putting your basket or your eggs in the basket of prosper. Be prosperous, right? Live long and prosper, right? Be fruitful and multiply. Prosper, prosperity, health, wealth, and happiness. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. All of these things are things that espouse that your life be not a life of limited resource and scarcity of resources. Your life is and should be a life of real abundance of resources and not the wishy-washy pop psycho stuff you hear all the time. I'm talking about actual real resources, material resources, financial resources, and those things can be had by people who manage their finances properly. It's not a magic formula, and you can't buy it on the internet. You just either are organized or you're not with your finances. And you either are, ahead of the curve when it comes to understanding how things are marketed well in this business to make a difference for your bottom line, for your business, right? Or you're not. You're either ahead of that curve or you're not. So I would say this is a demonstration of Ripple being ahead of the curve. And why? Well, Ripple, in case you don't know, right, when they say they're not just XRP, they mean it. Right? Ripple actually has other software. Right? Their first software is not XRP. And their first commercial software, XCurrent, and then XVia, and then XRapid on top of that. And now they're all integrated and all that. But the point is, Ripple is a software company, right? They sell software to companies to make their banking processes more efficient and cost-effective and all that stuff. XRP is just the oil in the engine that keeps it running. That's literally what XRP is. It is the fuel to keep feeding the fire of the Ripple software. I mean, really, that is what it is. If you don't know that, then I highly suggest that you read the whole purpose of Ripple, what it does, and why XRP was created, and why XRP can certainly survive without Ripple existing. But at the same time, it benefits Ripple massively that XRP exists. Unfortunately, unless you're a accredited investor, you can't invest in Ripple, but you can invest in XRP, right? And what's super interesting here is that their CEO, Brad Garlinghouse, right, the CEO of Ripple, spoke at Davos at the World Economic Forum this year, 2019, just happened this week, right? And in Davos, Switzerland, Mr. Garlinghouse, said that a lot of companies refer themselves as blockchain companies, even though they really don't know even what problem they're trying to solve, right? Or for whom, right? And he said that Ripple isn't either a blockchain company or a cryptocurrency company, right? They're a payments company. Like I just said, they're a software company. They make software for banks to make more efficient payments. They're a payments company. They happen to use cryptocurrency to solve payment problems and provide a solution. That's what he said at his conference, right? So here's the quote. Here's the opportunity. If you're into marketing blockchain, this is the news. Mr. Garlinghouse said, quote, but there is an opportunity to fundamentally rewire how modern economic or modern financial infrastructure works, and the pre-funding you have about $10 trillion pre-funded banks around the world in order to enable cross-border payments. If you could take advantage of crypto liquidity to fund real-time payments, you can actually take that $10 you can actually take that $10 trillion and use it for other purposes, which is great for societies, and it's great for banking, and it's great for the industry. So that's what we're trying to rewire. End quote. That, first of all, that's a lot, right? It's not a one sentence thing, and it's a lot to unpack, even though it's just a quote. It is absolutely evident by Mr. Garlinghouse saying that there is a huge market here to go after. And they're not saying they want to crush all of their competitors and all the usual ego stuff that you would see back in the day when, like, Ted Turner was taking on John Malone in the world of cable, for example, right? I'll squash him like a bug, one said to the other. It's just ridiculous kind of stuff. And in crypto, we have seen that kind of pissing match stuff in the Bitcoin Cash hash wars. But when it comes to XRP, these guys are too smooth. They're not gonna make that happen, right? They're not gonna have a personality spat, a pissing contest, essentially, slow them down. 100%, absolutely not. This is their mission, right? To exploit this massive $10 trillion potential. And use it, as the basis for their market, right, to grow. Think about all that liquidity that can be freed up, talking 10 trillion or more, that can be freed up for other purposes if banks use XRP instead of SWIFT. I know we've spoken about this a million times, but why is this important? Well, because it's at Davos. These people set the world for the economy. They set the world's agenda for economics. And a lot of politics happens there, behind the scenes and right in front of the scenes. A lot of deals get done there. A lot of the leading minds meet there. A lot of the influencers meet there. A lot of the political hobnobbers meet there. And the hangers-on, the coattailers, all the flunkies and, news junkies and all those people. What happens in Davos does not stay in Davos, right? That's has that been coined? Somebody get that.com. Maybe we did already. I don't know. Somebody on our team. What happens in Davos does not stay in Davos, and that is because Davos and the World Economic Forum affect the entire world through the control of centralized economies. And massively wealthy individuals, as well as huge, powerful nations, and, bureaucrats from those nations and politicians from those nations show up in Davos, and they listen to what the leaders of those particular events are saying. And when Mr. Garlinghouse, CEO of Ripple, is telling the leaders of the financial world, hey, there's this thing, we sell it, right? And you should look at it. And he's talking about his software, and at the same time he's saying there's this other thing, and it's money, and these guys all like money because they're at Davos. And here's how here's what it means. It means that there's a huge, gaping, multi-trillion-dollar industry that we are working to fill the void in. We're looking to replace a dinosaur that's locking up trillions of dollars in capital for no reason. And is slowing down everyone's speed of money and movement and freedom of wealth, etc. He's out there speaking to these people. They have now all seen him. So if any of them ever used the excuse before, oh, I don't know who he is, even though of course they know who he is, right? You don't not know who Brad Garlinghouse is if you're in the money game. But, until they officially meet him at a public forum and all that stuff, they can always say, oh, I don't really know who he is. I've never really met him, or whatever, some excuse, right? Now they don't have that, right? This is a big elevation for crypto, and specifically for XRP. to be the premier coin that has a face and is compliant with regulations and friendly with banks all over the world, that is not insignificant for marketing. This is massive. And again, I don't care if you love it or hate it. XRP is not something you can just ignore. I would say, just as much as avoid Bitcoin at your own peril, avoid XRP at your own peril, to be perfectly frank. It's not, you may hate the powers that be, but they are still the powers that be. And you may not want to enable them by supporting them. But buying XRP doesn't necessarily support that. It supports your personal wealth. Again, I don't care what you buy. Don't listen to me. That I'm certainly not telling you what to do. Maybe that's what I do. That is what I do. I like to have a variety of investments and coins because I think that there's a number of interesting projects and use cases. I think XRP has a terrific use case. I think Bitcoin has a terrific use case. I think Stellar has a terrific use case. I think, I've gone over a lot of these. Ethereum, great, awesome use cases. And I know people have found holes all over every one of them. So what? That's the purpose of developing software, to make it better. For now, what they are pretty astounding, and they are all under major developments. So expect them to get better over the next years. Was the very first iPad the most awesome iPad ever invented? The chirping crickets, who aren't even chirping, are telling me the obvious answer. Was the very first iPhone your best iPhone? Was the very first Android phone your best Android phone? Obviously not, right? Was your very first internet connection your best one? Was your very first web browser your best one? Was the very first computer you bought the best one? No. All of these technologies, and I'm just sticking to the technologies for examples because what the hell. But anything you could say that about, right? Pair of shoes, I don't know what. The first time you bought your own shoes, with the very best pair of shoes you ever bought yourself, or did you figure out how to buy better and better shoes over time? We all learn, and also more importantly, when it comes to technology, technology constantly improves. So the first version is rarely ever the one to get unless you're a super early adopter, which is great and a great opportunity if you're an investor. But for the mass market, it's not the one to get, right? They want to wait and see for things to be tested out. And in the meantime, you have all these things, like now we're 10 years in, and you have Ripple speaking on stage at Davos. That's, you can say whatever you want about them being the bank coin and all that crap. They're on stage talking in Davos. Right? So are presidents and everyone else who is of political or economic significance, central bankers and the like. That is not small potatoes. They are for real. You can write in the comments whatever you want about how you think they're terrible. I don't care. I don't agree with that. I don't like many things about maybe that particular product, but for a number of other reasons. It has nothing to do with my view about whether or not I think they're, propping up the banks. But I will, again, maintain the same point. If their bottom line net effect is that by reducing remittance fees, they free up trillions of dollars of liquidity, which banks can then use to actually invest in things. And if they actually make the cost of sending your transfer cheaper every time, and not by a few pennies, but by tens or hundreds of dollars every time, that is a big deal for most people. If you're a typical company sending even just 12 transactions a year to somebody, and let's say you spend, I don't know, whatever it is, a few $1,000 every month, you send this person some salary for somebody, whatever, and you pay them by wire transfer internationally, it'll cost you over the course of that year, $1,000 a year, like $100 a month, whatever it is, more than $1,000 a year to send a person their salary. That's insane, right? just because they live in a different country than you. That is just insane. Now, of course, there are other ways you can send it for cheaper, and you can send directly via Bitcoin and this and that and the other thing. But a lot of businesses, they don't do business via Bitcoin, and they like to do business in their local currency still. And yeah, so I think Mr. Garlinghouse was able to make a very important statement, essentially, to the world. And it is, I think, super positive that the World Economic Forum is meeting with people like Mr. Garlinghouse. It's also very telling, by the way. Like, if you don't like Ripple, and you're a Bitcoin person more and you hate Ripple or whatever, don't lose out on the opportunity. Just because Bitcoin doesn't have a public face, right? Really, like a real public face, because there is no Bitcoin entity, doesn't mean others can't. And that doesn't mean that others can't also give you opportunities that are very valuable. But again, that's, anyone should look at their own interest in things. And I'm definitely not advising people to invest in any coin, like I said. Right? This is definitely not financial advice. But really it's not. This is my opinions about the market and marketing impact of it. And I think the marketing impact of Mr. Garlinghouse going to Davos is just another very solid piece of the marketing story arc that has to happen for XRP to take its place and for Ripple to take its place in the pantheon of crypto gods and all that stuff, of things that are relevant in the crypto sphere. There's really a lot I wanted to talk about today, but there's just that. And then there's this particular story here that I wanted to mention to you. It's actually about, this is a weird topic, but it's about blockchain billionaires. And it's from Coin Central, Doug Polk's media outfit. Talks about the upcoming class of the mega wealthy by Ben Whittle. And he basically goes into describing the archetypes of the kind of blockchain billionaires we are likely to see occur as the next bull run takes place, like long-term bull run. Essentially, the primordial kind, if you will, is the early hodler who's been hodling huge sacks forever. And if you've got a bag as big as Satoshi's, right, he might be the world's first trillionaire, according to analysts, who believe he's got well over 1 million Bitcoin. And with all the other hard forks and everything else, he's also entitled to more coins, right? Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Gold, Bitcoin SV, all those kind of weird things. He's actually got, altogether, they think he's worth currently, or the Satoshi profile is currently worth $4.3 billion. But of course, if the market goes up, another 100, 200, 400 times, if it goes up another couple hundred times in value, then Satoshi's holdings would, for example, be worth $1 trillion. While it sounds super outrageous that the values would go up another couple hundred times, think about how many times it has come up from when it started. A couple hundred more is not that much left, to be honest. It would be weird if it didn't do that at this point. Like, you don't go 90% of the way across the ocean and then just stop and turn around and swim back because you're too tired, right? You either sink or swim. And if you get 90% of the way across, you're going to go the rest of the distance, usually, unless something weird happens. The same thing here. Like, the likelihood is very high that we will see crypto trillionaires in the near future. Of course, if you don't believe that crypto is growing, then maybe you don't think that's going to happen. If you think crypto is going to die, then no. But even Vitalik, right, co-founder of Ethereum, apparently he has a few 100,000 ETH, which is really nothing. Think about how many more Ethereum there are than Bitcoin. Right? It's not a small number. Circulating supply of Ethereum, 104 million ETH. That's more than 5 times the number of BTC. More than 5 times. Satoshi's got more than 1 million of these 17 million. That's a lot, right? That's more than 5% of the existing Bitcoin is Satoshi's. What? Yeah, 5%. Vitalik made 100 and plus million ETH and doesn't even own 1 million of them. So he doesn't even own a percent. Like far less. He owns like a third of a percent. I mean, that is massively modest and enormously respectful in many senses. And to not recognize that would be doing a disservice, frankly, to decency. So it is very telling of the kind of person he is, I think. The guy who invented ETH, you know, has only a few 100,000 of them. That's amazing to me. And to be a billionaire, basically, he needs to see prices double their all-time highs if he doesn't change his holdings. Yeah, we'll see about that. I'm sure he'll do very well. He's already doing very well. You know, good for him. He's awesome in many ways, right? Great guy. So I think hats off to guy. You know, if we're gonna have more billionaires like Vitalik and even frankly Satoshi, who has been decent enough to remain anonymous for 10 years, which is really impressive. However, that's happened to be the case. That's impressive. Billionaires like that, that's great. The world needs more of them, right? But then you've got other kinds of billionaires, right, who are also equally interesting. You've got here the innovator blockchain billionaire in this article. And the innovator blockchain billionaire basically invents the device or the thing or the whatever, you know, some kind of invention, a product or a service that's based on the blockchain and making it massively adopted. That product doesn't exist yet, obviously, or we'd all know what it is. So far, it could be a Ledger wallet, you know, it could be that Ledger or Nano or Trezor or whatever, you know, Ledger or Trezor or any of those companies, they might invent the next awesome blockchain product. It's very likely because they make hardware products, right? They're wallet makers. But it also could be Samsung, right? And you might have seen the story circulating around the web. Here's one from Toshi Times about the Samsung wallet, the hardware cold wallet on Samsung. Is it really a cold wallet? Well, it's on a phone, so arguable. I would say don't be the first guinea pig, but definitely take a look, and I'll be sure to experiment with that the day it becomes, you know, available, because it certainly looks great, and I'd be happy to take a look at that and give that the old review. But I would say, again, if you're going to keep your real assets on something, keep them on something very secure. And for now, I would say a phone is probably not the most secure thing, but I'm sure the next generations will be better. In any case, that is, you know, I would say the wallet makers are very much in position to do very well. And then there's, of course, what they call here the disruptor blockchain billionaire. Right? The disruptors are the ones who go into an existing industry and shake things up. Like, for example, Ripple goes into the banking industry and shake things up with transaction fees. Bitcoin goes into the world of finance, and suddenly people can send money to each other for practically nothing and have it be immutable and censorship resistant and worth, you know, a good store of value and all that sort of thing, digitally, direct, peer-to-peer, no intermediary, no banks in the middle, no accounts, no exchanging currencies, none of that nonsense. They're just using a new form of currency, cryptocurrency. And people who are doing that, you know, you can be a disruptor just by literally using crypto in your processes. Right? By involving it in your financing and accounting, in your, you know, asset management, in your human resources and expenses, your payroll operations, whatever it might be, you know, there is no shortage of ways that the world will be disrupted with cryptocurrencies, and we are seeing those things happening. And I think overall, the marketing of crypto, while far from perfect, especially at the larger projects, because frankly they have not done the best job of fighting FUD and everything else, in general, we are seeing a more positive uptrend starting to percolate. And that's because we're approximating the nadir. Like, we still haven't seen maybe the worst of the worst. I don't know. Maybe we have. Maybe we haven't. But you're starting to see percolations of positive media marketing stories. And this is one of them. Like when Ben Whittle, who writes for Coin Central, whips out this article and writes about the profiles basically of wealthy people and future wealthy people and how it is that they are going to make their wealth in all likelihood. When that's the focus of an article, that's on a decently read crypto news site, then I would say, you have the makings of the initial tea leaves, right, of the greener fields yet to come. Will they happen in 2019? Yeah, who knows? Don't try to time the markets, people. Do not, because it's, again, say the mantra with me. It's not about timing markets. It's about time in markets, right? We all know that. Do you remember that? I hope you did. So, on that note, folks, if you want to get ahead of the curve with your marketing, make sure you check out our site, YashaHarari.com. That, again, is YashaHarari.com. And there you can find all of the information you want about our marketing services, get some free ebooks for marketing, some templates, some tools, some resources, whatever you need for marketing in the blockchain world, marketing your cryptocurrency or project. Or if you just do traditional straight up marketing and you need help with digital marketing or social marketing or SEO, anything like that, let us know. That's what we're there for. We provide services for customers all over the world in many, many areas. Crypto and blockchain is one of those areas we specialize in, and we absolutely love doing that. So give us a shout. And of course, if you like this video, hit the bell button if you want to get notifications for upcoming videos in the future whenever we post a new one. If you really like this video, hey, click the like button, maybe share it, maybe do something with it interesting, and even subscribe, right? Because I guess that's the thing people say these days on YouTube channels, but it is important, because if you don't subscribe to this channel, then YouTube doesn't show anybody the video and no one sees it, and then we're just really talking into the darkness here. What is the purpose of that? Maybe in the future someone will come and watch these. We don't really care. Either way, we're going to keep making these things. Subscribe if you want to. Don't if you don't. Whatever you're doing, wherever you are, I really hope you're having an awesome time and that you are making the very best of your day. And on that note, folks, until next time, take care.